Welcome to our in-depth question for today. We have a very interesting topic to cover with you, and it is on having a new vision for values. So if you have wanted to receive the handbook that we have for this particular topic, all you have to do is in the comments below, type in void or values, and we will get this program to you for today. Today, we're going to cover and explore a really interesting topic, which is a new vision for values. So I'm going to discuss with you why are values so important, just in case it's your first time here, or we just want to hear it from a different lens. We're going to cover that. We're also going to cover, because here in Students of Wisdom and also in Maximum Growth Academy, we talk a lot about identity. And so we're going to understand and have a deeper dive into how does having misaligned values impact or influence your identity? And then also, what is this new vision for values? So if you're watching the replay inside of Maximum Growth Academy, you'll find that there is a download button just below for your resource for today. So welcome to class. So let's have a look at values. So this is something that Dr. Demartini often talks about. And so they have a huge significance on our life and also the people around us. And so if you imagine that values are like a compass, they're essentially the direction of your life because they're guiding us in our actions and our decisions every single day. They essentially define who you are and are shaping the direction of your life and also your vision. So you might be wondering, if you're new here, to what are values. So I'm just going to go through those. So first of all, what are values not? Most of the time when we talk about values, we think our instant thought is on honesty and integrity and loyalty as a set of values. However, they're more ideals of how you wish to live your life. And sometimes to be completely honest and completely loyal and completely integral every single day, all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, it's impossible. And so it's an ideal. So what we're talking about is values in terms of tangible ways that we take action on our life and things that are important, a set of priorities that are important. And so everyone has a different set of values. Your highest value is the thing that you wrap your identity up in. And so people's values consist sometimes of education, on personal development, relationships, finance, being a mom. So lots of people have a different priority or set of values. And so every decision that you're making from the time that you wake up in the morning until the time that you go to sleep at night is value driven. So if you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cuddle my kids, then you're like saying that is the most important thing over your spouse, over working, over going and exercising and training, and you've done that. Then the next decision that you make is you decide, okay, well, now I'm going to go and eat. Okay, great. So in that moment, you're saying eating's more of a priority than work, family, anything, reading, anything else. And so every decision we make, you drop the kids off to school, then you make a decision, I'm going to go to work. Okay, great. In that moment, you're perceiving yourself at that time that work is more important. And so, because sometimes we can beat ourselves down to think that I should be going to do this, but I'm doing this instead. It's because this is more important and this is a higher value. So essentially everyone, if you look at all these little micro decisions they're making in a day, it'll give you a really beautiful overview of what is truly important to that particular individual, because we'll spend our time, energy, resources, money on the things that are important for us, and we'll either delegate or we'll put to the side, or we will ditch the things that are least important or non-important for us. So we have this hierarchy of values. And so it's from what's most important and that we put the most energy, time, effort, and resources into, to what's of lesser importance. If it's no importance, it's not even going to show up on your hierarchy of values. So I know we're pretty genderless these days, but is it okay if I just go down the gender path for a moment? And so if we had a circle and we cut that circle in half, we have female on one side and male on the other. And so males tend to focus on mental, vocational, and financial. So they tend to be more on this side. And then females tend to focus sometimes more on the physical, the social, and the family dynamic. So between the two, not all the cases in all the time. I'm definitely not. I'm kind of a bit of a mix of between two. And so essentially that just shows that we do have different areas of life, but that's not necessarily a value, because values are more granular than the 7 areas, or the 6 areas I just described there. And so essentially we have our values that also change over time. So if you imagine what a value of someone under the age of 10, for example, there's lots of learning and playing, or they learn through play. And so then 10 to 20 is more like identity, also socializing and figuring their way in the world. Maybe 20 to 30, this is, kind of standard, I guess, is finding a partner and discovering your career path. Like, what do you want to do? And so there's different values that change throughout time. Definitely know that. Being a parent, your values change. Whether you're married or not married, values change. Whether you're building a company or you're working for someone else, values change. And so our values are changing and morphing over time. So to think that they're solid, stuck, and static is not the case. They're actually going to be changing and building over time. And so what I get really fascinated with is, especially being a counselor and helping people and coach people, is that identity crisis that happens. And this happens when we have a cataclysmic or a gradual change in values. Who you used to be isn't who you are now. So who you used to identify as isn't who you identify as now. And so there can be this storming and norming phase that people go through. It's like, well, I don't even know who I am anymore. I've kind of lost a sense of self. Some people actually have that without even anything really happening. It's just they've kind of grown up with having a loss of identity and sense of self. And so this is why doing our work, which is what we have in Maximum Growth Academy each and every week, is to work and dissolve the emotional dynamics that are happening and the emotional charges that you have around the things that are impacting your identity. Because it can be, some people, when they do Demartini's value determination process, which is 12 questions, maybe one of the team, Justin, might put the link in there for you. And so if you want to go and do the 12 determination questions, I think it's really difficult if you don't have a sense of self and you don't have a clear idea of who you are. It's then very difficult to ask the questions and then get a clear idea of your identity, because essentially that's what your hierarchy of values is. It shows you who you are. And some people go, well, it doesn't even feel like me. And some people can struggle with answering the questions because there's a lot of subordination or suppression in who they are, that they can't be themselves, and therefore the questioning is difficult. But other people, it's easy. So definitely helpful to know that as we clear our emotional stuff around our identity, then we can get a more solid idea of our hierarchy of values. And by that time, they stay pretty true. Like I've got 5 values that I've had for the last over decade, and sometimes they'll switch and change in terms of which is the hierarchy, which is the priority at that particular time, but they've stayed pretty solid and the same. And that's when you get to, because you know yourself. So why are values so important? So essentially they're shaping our life. So our values, if you imagine that you don't have a value on health and you don't have a value on finances, so you're going to pretty much show that those 2 areas are not going to put time, energy, dedication into. You're not going to read about it and grow your knowledge and take action on it. So you're going to have a different financial life or a different health life versus someone who has that as a value. So your values, if you have relationship as a high value for you, and then you're going to be able to blossom and grow and create a relationship there. But if it's low, not even showing on your values, and then you have an expectation, I should have an amazing relationship without any putting time, energy, and effort into it. It's kind of like an unrealistic expectation. And it's going to be difficult to shape a life that you love if your values don't match the life that you want. So they're definitely shaping us. And then also values, what's really important to know about values and why they're so important is because they're intrinsically motivating you. And so what that means is, instead of extrinsic motivation from the outside, so it means like someone has to like whip your butt into action to take action on certain things, Like, for example, we had in our mindset class yesterday, one of the members was talking about they don't need any external motivation to go to the gym. And they were sharing that, but they actually realized that sometimes they need external motivation to do some of the mindset work, which is why we show up for you each and every week for class so that you can do that mindset work. And so if we're not intrinsically motivated to do it, we're going to need something from the outside to push and challenge us. And that can come from people. It can come from life experience, because sometimes if we aren't putting emphasis, say, on our health, we get like a health challenge to like sideswap us to say, okay, now put time and energy onto this because it is important for you at this particular time in your life. So when we're intrinsically motivated, it comes from within. No one's going to be pushing you to do it. You're going to wake up in the morning and want to just spontaneously do it for yourself. And so what also happens here is this beautiful enmeshment of like fulfillment, because you feel like you fill your cup up. It feels nourishing for your soul. It feels nourishing for you as an individual. And you can kind of tap into this source of inspiration and energy when you're in having intrinsic motivation. So that's definitely a upside of why values are so important. So let's cover like why then we might have and how misaligned values are going to impact our identity. So identity is so important because we know our sense of self. We can build a career on it. We can have deeper relationships. Our inner world is more stable. There's lots of ripple effect from having our sense of identity. And so when we ignore and betray our values, or when we go against our values, we essentially disconnect from self. And so when we lose touch with the sense of self and who we truly are and what matters most to us, and we live with ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's that we can sometimes, for some people, they end up pleasing the outside world and fawning to the outside world and trying to make everyone else happy and okay, that then this internal world, the external world is okay, but the internal world is not. And it becomes really tumultuous for some people. And so because of this disconnect from self, it's then low motivation, not wanting to do things, the cost of the time that it takes in your inner world where you're just in this like mess and it's kind of like shrinking you. It costs a lot in your life. And so we want to know that our values are aligned, so we have an alignment with our identity, and then we can also go out to the world. The other aspect of why and how misalignment to our values is going to affect our identity is that, especially if it's going to help us, we're going to struggle with meaning. So when we don't know who we are, and then where our values don't match, is basically our inner world and our outer world decisions aren't matching. There's no connection between the two. We're going to struggle with finding a level of meaning in our life, because meaning comes from, it was something I was in a training this morning, and one of the person said, like, which is so beautiful. It's like, I just get paid to be me. And it's like, that's what work feels like. That's definitely hit a chord for me. Like, I feel like I get paid to be me because there's an alignment between who I am and then my work and my vision and my purpose, and it's an alignment. You get paid to be you. And there's a deep sense of purpose that comes from that. And so what you want to be able to do is, if you feel like there's this like misalignment with your identity and your values, we want to work out a way, like, how do you marry them up together, and how do you bridge the gap between your inner world and your outer world so that you feel like they're one? That's definitely what we focus on in our maximum growth classes each and every week, is shifting through that subordination and expectation, and also the people pleasing dynamic that we have. We're going to cover that inside of our maximum growth academy coming up soon. And so that you can essentially, instead of piss the entire world, or please the entire world and piss yourself off, we'll have maybe more of a balance between the two, or at least more of a sense of fulfillment. So I just want to cover you because you've got your PDF that if you've got the download, I just want to cover that download with you right now because especially if this is resonating for you and you feel like for you that you are having a little bit of difficulty around your identity and your values and kind of connecting in, I'm going to share my screen with you and I've got an exercise for you to do. So the exercise is here. So if you've used a PDF before, you definitely need to download it. And we are going to write on here. So I just want you to imagine this is a new vision. So in order for us to have a new vision for our life, we have to know who we are and who we are not. And so what you're going to do is on this document here, you are going to create a text box and you're going to start asking yourself a couple of questions. So you're going to ask yourself, at times, like where in things that are of value important to you, which do you feel like are true to you and which one are subordination? So which ones do you feel like it's true? And so this one's true and this one's not true, if you want to call it that, or not true. So you're going to ask yourself, and the things that you do every single day and the actions and the decisions that you're making, which ones feel really congruent and true to you and that feel aligned and which ones feel misaligned? So for example, if I ask myself this question and I said, okay, so what feels true for me? I would say, well, definitely facilitating definitely feels true for me. And I could go through a number of other things, but I could also ask in my day and the decisions that I'm making, the actions I'm taking, which one feels not true for me. So I'm definitely doing some learning on some marketing tips within business. It definitely doesn't feel true for me because it's not really my floating. I don't feel like it's very aligned with who I am. And what I'm doing. So I'm feeling like some of that is like outside of my identity, and this feels true for me. So what I want you to do is like a recon of your life and you have a list of what feels true and aligned and what feels not and misaligned. So what this is going to give you is a really beautiful snapshot because everyone's going to be different when they do this exercise. You might find actually I'm very congruent and I'm very aligned. And so there's a lot of information in the top part. And then some people were like, oh man, there's so much in my life right now that's misaligned that I'm doing that I actually don't want to be doing. And which is maybe why there's a discord within yourself. And so it's just a beautiful beginning of a reflection to start to go, okay, maybe there's some more work for me to do to be able to delegate, ditch, discard some of the actions that you're taking, or like how do you get to be clearer in your identity and take more action so you feel like your life is more aligned. Sometimes just even that tip of like being conscious at each decision point moment and going, okay, so right now, what is more important? So rather than just doing the action, like what is more important? Is it more important for me to go and make a sales call, or is it more important to me go and learn? Well, actually, it's more important to me to go and make a sales call. Okay, great, go do that. And so we can be more conscious in the decisions that we're making. So the part which I know that you've come here for, which is like this new vision for values. And so put simply, if we want, and this is what we're doing at the moment in our business class, which is a series called Void's Values Vision, because essentially in order for you to create a really congruent and fluent vision for your life, it's like, what do you want your life to be? Let's look at your everyday actions today, your values today, and I'll tell you what your vision is going to be in the future, because everything you're doing today is just amplifying to where you want to go in the future. And so if you are saving your pennies and putting money in aside and savings, then there's going to be something at the end. But if you spend, look at what you did today, what your decisions and your values today, then we can have a look at what your 20 years or 30 years time is going to be. And so when we have this like new vision for values, it's like, what is either the values you want to have right now in your life that will create the vision of what you want your life to be, i.e., if you want to start having an amazing relationship and you want to have a very connected relationship, then today decisions have to be around spending time, date nights, learning about relationships, growing that particular area, nourishing that within yourself and in the relationship. And so having open communication. And so those things are value driven, and that's going to create the vision that you want. If you want to have a really fulfilling financial life, then having money nights, learning about money, doing mindset, shifting the dynamics that you have around your mindset, shame and guilt, so that you can actually hold on to your money, raising your value of service that you have to the world so that you can actually make more money. So there are dynamics that you can start to shift so that you can have different values set right now that will create the vision that you want for your life. And so, because as we do this, because instead of kind of like floating aimlessly through life and kind of not really knowing where you want to go, you can paint a really beautiful picture of what the vision is that you want for your life, and then backtrack it to your values and say, well, what values would I need to have today in order to create that vision for the future? So, for example, we're in maximum growth. We're like turning the ship a little bit, which has been super inspiring. Dustin and I spent a lot of time like unpacking our kind of offer and our knowledge and really creating something of value for coaches to grow their potential as a coach and share their service with the world. And so if we want to grow this business, we're going to have to put some time on business and growing that. And so, which is why partly I'm having to do some things that I don't necessarily feel like are true values for me, but I can also see how in the bigger picture of things, it's going to take and create the picture and the vision that we both would love that maximum growth grow into. And so there are exercises that we do inside of maximum growth that help you, because like, oh my gosh, but I feel like that's outside of my identity. I feel like that's not me. There are questions that you can ask that can help to shift your values or raise your values higher up so it can come more inspiring, and kind of change your physiology about them so it doesn't have to be such a drag and you actually feel more inspired about it or with it. So essentially, what I'd love you to take away from today is that your values are forming and creating your identity. They're also your set of priorities. So they're dictating the decisions that you're making every single day. And then if you want to create a particular vision for your future, then have a look at what your current values are. And is there a way that you can shift and change those values if you wanted to? Or are your values actually perfect? And then you just go and set a really clear vision of what you want them to grow into. So that is our topic for today, a new vision for values. Next week, we have the 6 signs that you are on purpose. So we have these classes for you each and every week. We drop some gold nuggets of wisdom. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your insights, any of your realizations that you had for this particular topic. Drop it in the chat, because as you spark your ideas, it might spark another idea for someone else. So thank you so much for joining us. If you would love to come and join Maximum Growth Academy, we have our 2.0 version launching on the 1st of April. So come and join us. It is going to be a beautiful expansion of you growing yourself as a coach. We learn lots of questions that are really profound for you to ask as a coach. Work through your own stuff, because that is vital if you're a coach wanting to go out and share your service with the world, that you feel like you're doing you feel congruent inside, and making a difference to others. So come and join us. We have a 14-day money get back guarantee. So if it's something that you like and you love us, stay. If you don't, that's okay. We'll just ask you a few questions on the way out, and we deeply appreciate you. So thank you, team, for coming along, and I look forward to seeing you at the next perfect time.